Hello and welcome to another M3DM live stream. Have another shift starting up here at the Tabard, so please vote in the poll. Currently the Warmachine's in the lead, which is great because that's my absolute weakest point. I don't make a lot of machinery, I do a lot of characters and creatures, so I have set a point where I feel comfortable with it. I'm working on this a lot off stream because it's not only a Patreon request, they also paid for a priority ticket, which means they skip the line and really just in the next release, within a week or two release instead of like multiple months. A reminder that if you want to make your own Patreon request, this is where you go. You can join for free and kind of hang out and have a good time, but if you want to make a request, you join Legendary tier, and then there's a request board which you can access by clicking right here, and there you go. It's pretty simple. It just be a patron and leave a comment on the post. That's it. I'll throw the link in the chat for that because I encourage you guys at the very least just join for free. That's what makes all of this possible. But there's some context on what's going on, and looks like the Warmachine is going to win, which is kind of exciting. Again, it's different than what I normally work on, but I've been improving my hard surface skills quite a lot, so I'm excited to share some new techniques I have with y'all. All right, we'll go ahead and end that poll. And let's get started, okay? More than usual, I'm going to urge you guys to ask questions and whatnot because this is so different. So again, this is a Patreon request from Anything Else. That's their username. And they asked for this Warmachine. It has spiked tires, about 10 feet tall, and with a harpoon gun. They were pretty flexible on the details, whether it has like 5 wheels or it's a trike or a motorcycle or whatever. The reference has 5 wheels, so you have these sets here. It's almost tank-like, think kind of Mad Max. I don't have any poly paint here, and I have already had to learn a lot of like new techniques. So these tires, for example, you can see that these were completely done with the Z modeler brush, which is really cool. Like, this is just a technique that I don't have to, or I don't get to use very often. So yeah, here's our tire. If I bring up the Z modeler brush, I can just kind of extrude pieces out. You can kind of see how I built up this tread. If I didn't do it one piece at a time, I went ahead and had my symmetry turned on radial. So what I was able to do was all the pieces at once, which is pretty cool. Z modeler brush is really powerful and really awesome. So I have 2 different versions of this tire here, kind of more of a street tire, and then a much more aggressive tire, which I just very helpfully named aggro tire. So yeah, those are some techniques I'll be showing off in this stream. A lot different than my normal. I'm probably going to start this stream off as people filter in, getting some poly paint on this. As of now, it's just a beige blob, so we can do a little better than that. Oh, Adamus is back. Hi, welcome back, and Wolf, as always. Alrighty. So I think a classic like black and red color scheme would be really nice, and it's kind of similar to the reference I have here too. If you guys have your own references you want to share or ideas, feel free to join our Discord and then put that in the live stream reference channel. Yesterday that came in really handy, so I'm excited to keep using that as we move forward. So when I'm poly painting this, it's important that I change my material from my matte cap to one of the standard materials, because the matte caps here have kind of like pre-made colors and baked in shadows, kind of like this. You can poly paint on top of this, but it's going to be tinted beige, which isn't really what I want. I kind of want to work from a baseline here. Adama says, very nice software option, but even better design. I agree, the Z modeler brush is really cool. All right, let's go ahead and maybe I'll do a basic material for this. And it's quite literally just called basic material. That's why I say that. I don't think it's actually basic. Maybe get something that's a little more metal looking. Because this is looking a little too shiny, I think. And we don't want something this obnoxious like the chrome. We do have a metal and a metallic. That might be nice. Make sure I have ambient inclusion turned on, and I'll also edit my shadows before I get too much color in here. So you can do preview AO and preview shadows to really quickly change how your model appears in the viewport. You can even do deep shadows to make it really dramatic. Here we go. Adama says, are you thinking more post-apocalyptic or hyper-technological? Definitely more in the post-apocalyptic. Think kind of like Mad Max-esque. So that's why we have like, as of now there's no wear and tear on it, but we'll be adding that pretty soon. Good questions though. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the basic material still. I just think that metal is a little too dark and it's gonna make the stream a bit hard to see. I'll go a step further and go to my adjustments and bump this up just a touch and increase the contrast. There we go. So to any other ZBrush users here, if you go to render and then adjustments, you can really quickly change your viewport by toggling adjust, and they have all these different options here. The best thing you can do is just construct better lighting, but it's nice to use all the tools you have at your disposal. All right, let's get some poly paint on this as people kind of filter in and continue asking some good questions. I'm gonna change my paintbrush to drag rectangle because I like putting gradients on my models. This is hard surface, so probably not too many gradients, but all right, putting all the tires. Kind of a fun quirk about ZBrush is unless you have something poly painted, whenever you change your color here, it just automatically changes every subtool that doesn't have poly paint on it. This confuses my students all the time. Just keep that in mind until you have everything poly painted. It's going to change as you are color picking different things. It's kind of annoying, but you get used to it. A lot of work needs to be done here still. I'm really excited to continue getting stuff done on this. I feel like I'm getting more confident with hard surface designs and kind of finding my footing. Quite a few of these pieces not only need detail, but I'm going to be exploring a little bit more with some secondary shapes. And then I'll probably be using a lot of noise modifiers, which I don't get the chance to use as often. So it's just gonna be kind of a different stream compared to my normal. Looking forward to it. I really didn't expect you guys to have this win the poll, so looking forward to kind of pivoting here. I'm gonna adjust my light even more. There we go. You can see it makes a huge difference, not just in how readable it is, but also just like the overall interest of the piece. There we are. Wolf says, ooh, I like the fade. Yeah, me too. Just kind of adding a little more personality to this piece. And now that I have some color on here, maybe I will play a little bit more with some of the materials, getting different texture. My problem is they're just coming out so dark. I might even want to work with the soft plastic on just so it's easier to see. Adama says, post-apocalyptic, okay, you can start going into more what you're used to. I believe with skull horns, more material like rusted metal, bolts, and rivets. I agree, that's really gonna bring all that together. A lot of rivets. And I have a couple tricks I can show you guys to make that easier. And then Wolf suggested chrome. The chrome does look really cool. The only problem with it is it's kind of hard to look at for long periods of time. I don't know if there is a chrome down here. We have similar effects like this. Like, it looks cool, but it's a little harder to see the shapes and kind of, you know what I mean. Oh, Hindsight's here. Hello, welcome Hindsight. Skulls, spikes, rough welds, and chains are exactly it. Ooh, rough welds. I didn't even think about sculpting welds on. Let me keep that in mind. Yeah, as of now, the model's really, really clean, so the personality is incoming. I'm trying to get some stamps here. I'm so used to doing characters and creatures. I have like this default 3/4 view that I do, but in this case, the 3/4 view doesn't make any sense. So, yes. We'll do a couple. leave one here. You guys can probably hear my dog. He's snoring pretty good today. There we go. That's good. Something cool about doing these stamps is that surprisingly, when you change your lighting, it does remember where these little stamps are at, and it changes the lighting in real time. So my husband is definitely, he's super into cars, and just anything to do in the garage, honestly, is his wheelhouse. So I'll probably be calling him in a few times here to help with this design too, because he's already helped me a lot in terms of making this look fast and cool. But now that we're moving on into the detail section, this is kind of like where my experience starts to shine. Yeah, welds, ooh, and bullet holes, that'd be cool. Wolf says, I need to use ZBrush for non-metallic metal references more often. Not a bad idea. I like the bullet holes idea a lot. All right, I think one of the first things we're going to detail here are these fenders, because it's a shape that's probably the most refined on here. I also have a ground piece just kind of thrown in here that I can reference later to make sure all the wheels are on the same plane. Alrighty. I'm going to duplicate this fender and call it detail fender, because again, I'm a bit newer to hard surface detailing and modeling, so I want to keep a copy of it just in case I don't like how it turns out. All right, I'm looking at my reference here, and now I'm going to add details. I can do this. Okay, I have my Z modeler brush open, and the first thing I want to do is add some trim. So I'm going to insert an edge loop here with symmetry turned on. So that should be affecting the other piece here. Even though you can't really see the inner side of the fender, I want to make sure I'm giving that attention. Next thing I'm going to do is extrude and poly loop. Oh, this is also just a preview of thickness. So for example, when I turn off dynamic, you'll notice that it's completely hollow. So I really, before I start building upon this, I need to commit to what this mesh shape is actually going to take. So I have dynamic turned on, and I can kind of play with the thickness here, but being careful of not having too much clipping issues like this. So it's definitely a balance I need to find. I think that's gonna work well. And if not, I saved a copy of it, so no worry. Still learning here. Instead of dealing with this complicated edge loop here, I can also just insert an edge loop on this center. Oh, it's mad that's not symmetrical. There we go. Like this. And this might be an easier way for me to get a nice trim on the edge of this. Yeah, there we go. That's kind of cool. Okay. And then I think it'd be cool if this piece right here was just taller in general. So I'll go to Q Mesh and then Polygroup Island. So you want to use Q Mesh over Extrude depending on what kind of operation result you want. Extrude will just add material and extrude the form. Q Mesh will try to do intelligent changes where it's going to taper into stuff. So look at the difference at this edge right here. See how it like grabs and clicks? And if I keep pulling, it's not going to pull through that. If I change this to extrude, you'll notice that's going to pull right through that no matter what. See? And it's not doing any of that tapering stuff. I usually use extrude, but that's when I'm doing like totally different purpose. So I am doing this hard surface stuff, I'm probably gonna be using Q Mesh a lot more. There we go. And then I'm gonna add a couple more edge loops. And we're gonna extrude a couple more bands here. There we go. I think that's a lot more of an interesting shape than what we had before. And now I have actual places where I can add these rivets. So I'm looking forward to it. Ooh, Adamas has more to say. If it's gas powered, it is. It needs exhaust system. If it's electric, it needs a way to show that it's electric, but post-apocalyptic. Yeah, no, it is gonna have an engine somewhere. I do have like some air intakes here, but I don't have any exhaust. So I will probably call in a friend. That friend will be my husband, to make some cool exhaust ports. I do kind of like these shapes here. I could duplicate them and then mirror them on the back here. The topology got a little screwed up on these. Don't worry about that. I'm gonna reconstruct it later. But it is important to have exhaust. So I'll set that here just as like a, I think dual exhaust look cool. Yeah, what are we thinking about that? Just having something. I could do straight pipes too. I'll call it exhaust. And again, don't mind this like really weird topology I have cutting through here. Just gonna smooth that in there. Not gonna worry about that. I might need to just reconstruct these later with a little more intention, but I might be able to just clean it up like that. We'll see. Also, the colors here are just coming across so bland. I can't look at this for hours. I want to pump up the contrast here a bit more. Ooh, the textured metal's cool. Yeah, I think it's going to be basic material and just making this whole scene brighter with really strong ambient occlusion. Technically, I mean, this has no bearing on the finished 3D model, but it makes me happy. I mean, as an artist, like, take pride in your work and the way that you're displaying it, right? I think having a colored light, yeah, that makes the scene a lot, much more readable. There we go. Kind of reminds me of like a warthog color scheme from Halo. So we don't want to go that tan. Here we go. Adama says, painting exhausts on models, just one of the things that I like to do. Like painting the exhaust pipes themselves or like effects. Because it'd just be like smoke, right? That looks much nicer. Wasn't expecting that to be so quick. But I'm gonna go through here and then add a bit more shadow to the wheels. And then we'll call over my husband for some input. Fantasy creatures and grimdark is where I shine. This is neither of those things. So I am very open to input and things to improve on. Which I mean is always the case, but I guess it's extra the case here. Oh, that's right, I have 2 of these visible. I don't think I'm gonna need these fender pieces anymore because I'm really happy with the way they detailed them. So I feel comfortable enough to delete that. And if I run into problems later, I can just load an earlier quick save. Hey, Foxy's here, and you're on time today. Hello, hello. We're working on a Warmachine here, but right now I'm taking a little bit of a pause before I get too far into the 3D shapes and just making it a bit more readable with some poly paint because it's really dark and kind of hard to see. I think my color choices are just a bit too dark. So I'm going to take all the poly paint off and we're going to kind of start from scratch again. It's a learning process for sure. So I know I want all these fender pieces to be brighter. And then I want to be, maybe I shouldn't be thinking black, but instead like just red with accents. And that might make this a bit easier. Adama says, no, it's not just smoke when you're going fast. You gotta have the color change in the metal. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, where the metal is like red hot, but it also gets like this bluish green, like streaking to it. Yeah, very cool. Foxy, Aloha promised me nuts or something. Yeah, I don't think she's here. She's missing, she's late for her shift. we go. I'm avoiding the gray entirely because it's just blending into the viewport. I could change that color, but it's not that difficult to change. I just find working in gray on ZBrush is just easier to do. But who knows, maybe I'll change that this stream. All right, now that I have more of like this two-tone look going on here, I'm gonna add in some more of that black gradient. And with back face mask. Yeah, I have a lot to learn with these. I'm so used to poly painting organics that this is tricky. Clut says, what is the story behind this Warmachine? Is there a particular genre or culture that will pilot it? Kind of like Mad Max-esque. I think it's something from Avernus, so like Hellfire kind of thing. They were pretty open with how I could structure this. Wolf says, the tempering of the metal is really cool. I work with metal sometimes and it's pretty. Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of metal working, but something that I'd like to try out in the future. Also, welcome back, Clut. You become something of a regular on these streams, which is fun because your input is always, always appreciated. Making small improvements here. Still a little confounded by how to make this color contrast the best, but I think it's time to just start working on the shapes again. It's just like when I turn it like this, I feel like it's so hard to read some of this. Maybe it's like the way I'm sitting. I don't know. I think it's a lighting issue. Clut says, Avernus Hell Siege machines tend to have more steam engine tech with really ornate demonic and spike elements. Oh yeah, we're nowhere near decoration. I don't know if I put that in the stream, but this is like just fresh out of blockout. So I'm really excited to start bringing elements like that in here. We're definitely nowhere near that. The only thing that's even remotely detailed are the wheels. Gotta start with a strong silhouette first, which I'm really happy with this base shape here. I'm just still confounded by this color scheme. It's reading so dark and it's really hard for me to see. So if it's hard for me to see, I know it's hard for you guys to see. And then Hindsight says, it's from the Descent into Avernus Adventure for 5e. Oh yeah, you nailed that. All right, let's go ahead and start adding some of these rivets and details. And there's a lot of really cool like IMM brushes that we can put on here to kind of speed this process along. All right, depth. So by default, these rivets will sit kind of off of the model and you don't want that to happen. So what we can do is you can go to brush and adjust the depth here. And then I'm debating whether or not the rivets would be on the side or on top. I don't know if it matters. Usually I see them from the top. Hey, Taylor's here. Good morning. This is different. Yeah, it really is. I appreciate you guys sharing all these things that you're thinking. Clute's saying it's more sci-fi. respectfully, I'm not going to pay attention to a whole lot of input on this one. This is something that where I'm finding my own footing. And if I'm taking all this input right from the beginning, I'm not going to get anywhere. A lot of things that make this look post-apocalyptic versus like sci-fi, which is a kind of sci-fi, is going to be the way it's all assembled. And we're just nowhere near that. So, calm. It's going to come together. I know it doesn't read as sci-fi based on what my reference is, and it's almost a 1-to-1. So, trust the process. It's going to come together. I'm really excited about it. What did I say in my last stream? I kind of compared the block out to like a baby. And I'm like, let him walk. Be nice to him. Hasn't done this before. And that's not me. This is the art piece itself. It's still growing. All right. Let's get some rivets in here. Something cool with this too is like, instead of like clicking and dragging and trying to get this exact shape, if you click control or command control on Windows, it will snap to whatever your draw size is. So, for example, if my draw size is 100, that's the default size when I hit command. But that means I can control it like a draw size of, let's say, 7. And that's how I can get really uniform rivets all the way across. And it kind of feels like placing rivets almost, because like I'm pressing my keyboard. It's very satisfying. There we go. And then I like one of the comments earlier that was talking about like having like messier welds. I didn't even think about sculpting kind of like organic forms onto this. Trying to keep the spacing somewhat similar. You could achieve a similar effect instead of doing it by hand. You could use a Z-modeler brush and some clever polygrouping and applying an IMM. But in this case, I'm new to this hard surface modeling stuff, so I don't mind being a little inefficient. It's kind of relaxing too. There we go. Very cool. I think I'm going to make this front wheel smaller and even more dramatic and low in perspective. It's going to be cool. Adama says, I think because of the world concept, you can go a little heavy with your organic sculpting. I agree. I think that's going to be fun and then more in my wheelhouse, pun intended. All right, we're going to make this even smaller, and then maybe even like a lower tilt here. So I'm gonna merge these hubcaps together because we mostly have this shape done, but we're not quite done with it. Looks like we have a third hubcap hiding in here. That doesn't need to be there. There we are. I don't even know where these pipes were supposed to be going, but they sure looked cool. I think it should be more angled like that. Make that a bit smaller. And then the wheel a bit wider. I can also go to Transpose Master, which I usually use the pose characters to quickly change the proportions here. It's kind of cool. And then Thomas mentions to leave some space underneath your fenders so you can bring out the treads like you were showing on the back wheels. I would like to do that, but I need to be careful that a lot of this does need to lay on top of each other for 3D printing purposes. I'll keep that in mind, but I need to be careful that there's not too many huge gaps to contend with. As you guys can see, I've just completely abandoned the poly paint because it's just making it really hard to read. I want it to work, it's just not working. I won't do polyskin though, it's a bit too odd. I'm curious how aggressive I'm gonna make the rims. Got a lot of options here. All right, I'd also like to come in with my Z Modeler brush and create a better bevel on these. Let's see if we can do that. I'm gonna split the rivets so they're their own piece. Mirror and weld. It shouldn't affect the geometry when I use the Z Modeler brush on the rivets, but just on the off chance it will, I'm gonna make it not an option by just making their own subtool. All right. I'm gonna kind of see if I can get an effect here that I like. Again, the Q mesh is being a little too aggressive. It's going around this entire poly loop and we don't want that. So instead, let me just grab this one section here so I can kind of play with these shapes and see what, find something that I like. Kind of like a more of a bevel effect. There we go. Because I like how harsh it is, but I want to pull that edge out a touch. Very cool. I don't like that it's affecting this trim right here, so I think I can just mask that and then it won't affect it. I was correct. Love when things work the way I expect them to. Just Lingual's back. Hi, welcome. Just Lingual says, it'll be good once we get past the blocking phase because we can paint it red to go faster. You're correct. As we all know, red makes things faster. Purple is where it's at. The front fender is going to be attached to this wheel well here, not wheel well, the rim hubcap. I just don't have those pipes there yet. As of now, it's connected to nothing. Observant. Oh, and there's some really cool stuff coming in the live stream references, like always. Thank you guys. Yeah, I like what Clute's adding. It's a lot more of this organic, carved out looking shape. I like that. Less clean than what I have. At the very, very top of the chat, it says join here to see our behind the scenes. If you guys click on that, you can get your Discord invite and you can see the references that the rest of the community is sharing. Hindsight says, me thinks you're not getting the niche nerd humor of the color jokes. Are you joking? Do you know who I'm married to? No, my husband, yeah, no. Purple, I'm not sure what you're joking about there. But as far as like red makes stuff fast, no. That's where it's at. What is that? I mean, I always think of like Ferrari red, but not even just that. I always think of the movie Cars, Lightning McQueen. We can meet in the middle of purple with red flames. I like that. It's a little clashy, but I like the enthusiasm. All right. Pretty soon here, I'm gonna have to just subdivide these and make it one solid mesh. We're gonna lose those clean topologies so I can start sculpting in these like chipped forms. I just don't want to do that because I'm so attached to this clean topology that I made. It's the only way to add this finer detail though. I have these really cool like orb brushes I can add in too. Yeah, I have orb, flat, and protect, and then I have, this was a free brush pack on ArtStation a while back. I'm sure it's still there. I think this guy used to work for Blizzard. Alrighty. And I think I want to do, I think it was slash. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier where I duplicate this and then I'm going to subdivide this and do some organic sculpting, which is just not what I expected to do with this piece, but that is what the style calls for. All right, it's already looking a bit rougher. Just feels like breaking rules. All right, let's go ahead and hide that cleaner one underneath. And then, yeah, I can kind of just play with some different techniques here, stuff that I don't normally do. You have some nice like slashes here. That one's cleaner than I was expecting it to be. And then that flattened edge to kind of like chip some stuff away. A noise modifier would also work well with this. But since I'm kind of new to sculpting these kind of textures, I want to do it by hand first before I pass it off for ZBrush just to put like a blanket texture on the whole thing. Okay. I know that clay polish could be a nice tool for me to use here as well. I'll make sure I don't add these slashes in symmetry though, because it's gonna look a bit odd. There we go. Damage like that is what I'm really looking for. Stuff that will even cause some of the rivets look like they're poking out farther than others, I think would be a nice bit of asymmetric detail too. I also have my H polish brush that I can come in with as well. It's been a long time since I've gotten a request like this. It's kind of fun to try out some different textures and different techniques. Right now I'm kind of just like in that playing phase where I'm seeing what feels the most efficient way for me to achieve certain textures. Like I have a very certain way that I sculpt like wood and fur and stuff like that. But now it's like, how do I weather metal? I'm like, okay, I have some ideas I've kind of explored here that I like. I wonder if I can even use the clay tubes constant and remove material and then use clay polish. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I can play with that too, and that's gonna paint really well. It's a little too exaggerated, so let's increase the focal shift. And I can kind of use this to block out damage, just the way that I would with an organic shape. It's kind of cool. Kind of looks like a tread pattern almost. Yeah, having more of this beaten up texture throughout the model is gonna be really cool. And then of course adding spikes everywhere, but that's more like a secondary shape. I kind of want to just play with these details first, because it's not something I've had the opportunity to play with very often. I also want to see if I can sculpt in like these welds, like messy welds that we're talking about. I have done some welding before, but it's been a long time, so I wonder if I can kind of get it in effect with the standard brush. I think it'd need to be a pretty high intensity. It's a little too dramatic. Just lower that. It should be more like a pool. There we go. I think I might do that, but just a bit smaller. I got some options. Adama says, yeah, like giant Warhammer was used to pound steel. Okay, cool, cool. Does that make sense, kind of some of this texture I'm putting on here? I like that. Wolf says, you could make some damage that a chain tool could have caused. Like, oh, like yarn or a dented cut. That'd be cool. Taylor says, this is a Mad Max style medical unit. I'm not sure we're getting medical. I want you to tell me about that. But yes, it is Mad Max style. And yeah, I agree. The welds need to be a little smaller. I agree. I went ahead and undid those, and then I might not even end up keeping it. I just think it'd be cool to Let's go ahead, zoom in here, and then let's pick an edge. Kind of more like that. My reference. My reference doesn't really show any of those. But I know it would be a really cool detail to add. I might want to just come back to that. I need to add more plates and stuff like that first. I do think that's more of the idea though. Stuff like that. Making it a bit uneven. I like having it there more than I like not having it there. So that's a start. That's an improvement. Dam standard with drag turned up. Dam standard would carve away material rather than adding it, so it's kind of wouldn't be the effect of a weld. Adama says throw a gash in it first and then try putting a weld on it. Let's do it. I have a slash brush here that I really liked. Like this. That does kind of give a cool effect. Let's see if I can try something else. A bit too blobby on that one. This is fun though. Just trying some stuff out. Taylor says, like a medical backup in Warzone. Oh, no, I understand what you're talking about. But I wasn't sure. You give an example of what it's called. Oh, thank you, Wolf. So I need to do the messier one on the left because we don't want like a clean bead. I think that'd be fun. And I'm looking up what Taylor included. I like the cross on it. Yeah, I am familiar with that, but I'm just curious what about this is reading medical. Isn't there a modifier to make it additive rather than subtractive? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. Excuse me, you can do that with every brush. So you're saying to make dam standard additive instead, like this. Oh, that does kind of read a bit better. If I were to do that here. It's just a little too sharp, that's the only issue. Nah, I like standard brush more for that. Alright. Starting to come together. I do wish there was more plates on this though, and some larger rivets. And then something to do with these hubcaps, which are very boring right now. I think something else I can do, I'm trying to think of flattening some larger sections like that. And I could even have some rivets that are missing. That'd be cool. This is gonna be a lot of work, but it's gonna be worth it. This is someone that joined my Patreon. They even asked, they were like, is this something within the wheelhouse I could request? And I was like, yes, because it gives me an excuse to improve on these skills, and I know I can come up with a really cool result. It just might take me longer than it normally would. That's how we practice. All right. And then I'm going to insert an edge loop here. I'm probably going to put spikes on these. And then extrude, and it's not going to be a poly loop on this one. It's probably going to be a polygroup border, not island. Polygroup island. There's so many little options right here, and they all sound pretty much the same. There we go. Obviously that shape is a bit too clean, but one step at a time. Let's go ahead and create one of these spikes that I can start reusing. I could just take this cone if it's solid. It is. Maybe we can modify this to start adding some spikes throughout this model. Cool. Very cool. I'm gonna keep one of these spikes up here for me to grab later, and then for this one, I need to trim it up because it doesn't need to extend into the body that much. Even though you can't see it, it's just good practice to not be too unnecessarily redundant. All right, I like the spike here, and then I'm thinking I might actually put a bunch of smaller spikes rimmed right here. I think that'd be cool. I kind of want them to be a little crooked and not perfectly even. All right, I need to adjust my ambient occlusion. It's a little too intense. There we go. Cool. Making some improvements. I like the concept of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and Dynamesh this with polish turned on, chip out some shapes, and then we're gonna copy this on the other ones. I might wanna go through and add a bit of an edge on these before I go too much farther. Other direction. No, ZBrush. So the Z modeler brush is very sensitive to the actual angle, whether you're going up or to the side, and it's like the smallest little difference on your hand. There you go. Come on. Driving me crazy, ZBrush. Oh my god. It's like the tiniest little line that I'm looking for, in case you're like, what is she even trying to do? If you look really closely, there's a tiny little orange line that shows which direction it's going to extrude. There we go. Yeah, I like that layer being on there. I'm starting to get more comfortable, more confident with these forms. Clue, do you know if there's a way to like force which direction it goes? Because it's like fighting me more than usual. When I have it zoomed out, it seems to do a bit better, but it really wants to do a vertical extrude. Come now. That thing's so silly. There we go. My god. I did not want to do that. Alright, we have that there, and I can go ahead and merge that down to this hub wheel, and then slowly build up some more of these forms. There we go. Kind of had it merging onto the wrong one really quick for a moment there. All right, got all my subtools situated again. Don't mind how ridiculous it looks on the other side. No one's gonna see that. I can trim that up later too. It's already been trimmed once. And I might remove these secondary spikes too. I like the ones in the center for sure. But yeah, I just want to start introducing ideas of these spikes on here. And then the harpoon, I'm really excited to work more on that on top, because that one's hasn't been very developed yet. Do that, and then mirror and weld. There we go. Perfect. Go ahead and duplicate and then set that on the front. These are going to have a slight angle to them as well to make sure they actually reach that front wheel. There's some clipping going through the wheel right now. Obviously, I'll make sure that that's all straightened up before this is finished, but we're making some good progress. Very cool. All right. Just Lingual says, I know it's not on theme. I love suggestions that are not on theme. Sometimes it inspires different stuff. But the spikes made me think of it. I love adding barnacles whenever I don't know what detail to add. I mean, that's kind of interesting, especially if there was any body of water around. It's feasible. Clute says, my Z-modeler skills are really sad given how long I've been playing with ZBrush. I get you. It's one of those things, if you don't do it, you know, you just gotta suffer through the Z-modeler brush. And then Taylor says, Mia, the reason I was thinking medical unit is precisely because it does not quite seem to match. Match what? With all the spikes and whatnot, could create some interesting contrast. Funny you say that, because I've been adding spikes. That's why I've been kind of ignoring you guys right now, because a lot of the things that you guys are suggesting, I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm going to put a big sign up here saying what stage we're at sometimes, because you jump the gun in a good way. Lockout. It means not done. But I'm glad he suggested the spikes. It's funny, I happened to just do that anyway. Adamus mentions, even a medical unit needs a little defensive arguments. I agree, or agreements. I completely agree. And Aloha's finally here. OMG, I'm late. What has she done to Thor, guys? Yeah, Thor has seen some improvements. All right. I think I'm all caught up on the chat. Oh, my husband had a nice supportive thing to say. I didn't even see that. Thank you, Ricky. Did you feel me getting spicy over here? That's why I ignored them for a bit. I was like, oh my god, stop saying what it is. It's not done.
No, I was just really liking what you were doing with the welds. I thought it was
thank
super
you.
cool.
That wasn't even my idea. That was actually Wolf and Hindsight. Both were tuning and stuff like that, too.
And the way you were doing it was really good, too. It was
absolutely.
Really good.
We were just getting a little heavy-handed on saying whether it's sci-fi or post-apocalyptic or whatever. I'm like, main components are not in yet. Love the enthusiasm. Calm.
It looks very entertainment.
It's very entertainment. Thank you, honey. And then Taylor agrees. Yeah, I like the barnacle idea too. I think that could be really interesting. Taylor says, it also has that look that drives fast, being able to arrive on scene to help fallen soldiers. Ooh, I like that headcanon. Oh, my dog's starting to bark in his sleep. Huh. I like that idea. Maybe I'll sneak in some, like, packs on this, because it would fit the post-apocalyptic vibe, too. And it is supposed to be fast. I'm glad that it looks fast. That's mostly a credit to my husband helping me get the silhouette out. Got some good ideas here. Adama says, it's looking nice. You're fast, you're blocking it in. Everyone else is finalizing. Very well put. I agree with that. And you guys are saying nice things. I think sometimes I'm like, whenever you guys put in cool comments, I'm like, I want to realize them immediately. And I just can't because it's not blocked out. And I'm realizing you guys aren't saying do it now. You're just like, hey, here's some cool stuff. Yeah. Adamus, your comment kind of linked it all together for me. Thank you. The welds idea, I would have not come up on my own for sure. So thank you guys again for that. That's a cool one. It's missing plates. It needs more plates stuck onto it, but I can always add that later on too. I wonder if there's what if I did some asymmetrical plates I kind of like tack on there, and then we can rivet those onto the machine too. That could be cool. Ricky, is it done yet? Careful, you're in the same room as me. You're not safe. You guys are fun. But if you guys want to be picky about one thing, how can I make this color look better? I kept trying to poly paint it, and I keep wanting to do like black and red, and it's so dark. it just doesn't read well at all. I'm having a hard time with that. Hey, Pat Name Prince. Hi, welcome back. Let her cook, guys. No, you guys are being fine. I think Mia needs to just chill out. You know what happened here? We have a heater in here, and it's like super hot, and it's making me crabby. It's starting to cool off in here because the window's open, and look, I'm feeling more calm. I love it. Clute is defending himself, and I appreciate you, but no. Foxy suggests hot pink. You know, I don't mind that idea, honestly. If I do white with hot pink, it'll look more medical, and it'll be easier to read. All right. I'm already learning some new ways to to achieve like different textures, and I'm pretty happy with this pounded out metal that I'm starting to kind of figure out here. Mostly using brushes that are already in ZBrush. There's a few that I have that are from ArtStation, I think. If you type in orb brushes, you guys should be able to find it if you're wanting that exact same brush. But they're not really doing anything that you couldn't just achieve in ZBrush anyhow. Clute says, "Oh, keys, I'll be quiet and let the baby walk." Thank you. Spikes are coming in. It's happening. Just Lingual says, "Red clay is classic and is warm tone still." That's true. Is that in here? Because we're not going to do the horrifying wax. Though, honestly, for the specific vehicle, I don't mind it. Yeah, red clay is right above it. Oh, yeah. I don't mind that. And it's actually kind of highlighting some of the textures here. I feel like it might be a little hard to poly paint on top of, but let's, I don't know, let's mess with it. I'm always open to ideas. And it's a matte cap, so it means I'll have some shadows kind of pre-baked in. Getting faster at this too. The only downside is I think I'd have to use like a blue to try to cancel out some of the tones here. Because now the whole thing just looks red. Yeah, I think red clay is going to be too red. But it's fun to play with. Aloha says, "Mia, don't forget that technique from the video you linked me as part of my homework. It's so cool." Are you talking about the, my goodness, the Z modeler brush technique where you kind of like model with dynamic subdiv turned on? Because that's actually how I created these fenders. I just happened to not do it on stream. Taylor says, "I like a strawberry milkshake or a cotton candy pink rather than a hot pink." That's fair. It's a little easier to work with too. This is kind of that strawberry milkshake color. And it's easier to see too. I keep going back to like this basic tan. It's kind of the easiest one for me here to see. When in doubt, skin shade is pretty good. All right, well, this back fender here has seen a lot of improvements. Now to continue working on that. I'm thinking. Because once I get this fender done, I can duplicate it for the other two pieces here. This needs more layers though. You know what? I think this needs, it needs some plates. They're gonna be interlocking on it. I'm gonna see if I can just kind of rough them out with Dam Standard. Even though I did just do all this beautiful Z modeler brushwork and now I'm just sculpting. It is what it is. Yeah, something kind of like that all the way back or whatever. The lazy radius is so high, it's making it hard to do this. Something kind of like that all the way through, maybe a plate in the center. Nah, I'm not crazy about that. What if instead, thinking. Also, didn't realize how high poly this is. We're gonna knock that down first. Patnay Print says, starting to give me a Borderlands feel. Yay, thank you. That is the goal. Corey's here. Good morning. Yes, sweet. It's happening. It's happening. Oh, and Hindsight has some more references. Oh, that's really cool. Love some orcs, too. I like it. I like the spikes in the front of that, too. Maybe some crude vents could work. Yes, that's a super good idea. I have a couple intakes on the front. I need to loosen up and just start getting shapes down again. Kind of getting locked up a little bit. And then Hindsight says, reverse the cut and make it like scaled plates going back how you envisioned it. Oh, yeah, so flip the other way. Oh, yeah, because that's the direction the air is flowing over it. Duh. That is going to help. Okay, I will do that. I'm just waiting for this operation to finish. It's almost done. Foxy says, back to color. Have you ever seen a purple orc? I want to say I've seen someone paint a purple orc before. All right, I've got a plan here for these plates. All right, I think I have a flow. I think I have an idea of how I want to do this. Oh, unless ZBrush is just not going to work. Then I don't. Zero mesh by same, and then we're going to put those plates on here, flipped over. Usually I'd use a Z modeler brush to get these shapes blocked out, but I really want this kind of cruder shape, so we're going to go a little higher poly than I normally would. It's definitely the live stream of experimenting, because I'm doing stuff that isn't up my alley, but I want it to be up my alley, so I'm gonna learn how to do it. And then a year from now, I'll be making really cool stuff like this. There we go. It's a nice way to clean that up. All right, looks like we have a plate. And then I'm gonna really quickly and like messily create this, and if we don't like it, that's fine. But this way I can kind of visualize something new here. Because it's missing a secondary form. I don't know why it looks so small right there. It's the same plate. Let's move that up. Okay, ZBrush is lagging a ton. It does this when it, I ask it to do an operation and then it forgets to stop doing that operation. I guarantee there's a decimation master cooking in the background on nothing. So let's go ahead and grab that and tell it to stop. Or not. What are you mad about? OBS is cooking. That's pretty normal. I'll just keep an eye on that. There we go. Something kind of like this. There's no trim on it, but that's something I can add later. And then maybe like I can even delete some of these and like rivet them down. That could be kind of cool. I think there's a few too many. But I just want to get some shape on here and really start experimenting a little more quickly. I think I'm getting a little too picky, making stuff perfect the first time when I'm not even certain on some of the concepts here. It's a bad habit to get into. That's definitely cooler though, looking a little more scaled armory. Oh, I missed the explanation earlier. That's okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't get the purple reference, just the red. All right, I like the 3 up front. I don't like the ones in the back. I think just like that is cool. Mirror and weld, turn on symmetry, very good. I don't know what these little weird spikes are, remnants. There we go. And let's use a Z-modeler brush to cut in some edge loops. I can probably use this to add in some asymmetrical lines and details too. Kind of want to play with that, just like randomly. First, I'm going to make sure that insert edge loop is just set to do nothing. So that way I can kind of just click around and not worry about adding a bunch of edge loops where I don't need them. Yeah, just like some bolted on nonsense. Everybody likes bolted on nonsense. All right, let me grab some rivets here, some bolt heads. You can go to brush, depth, lower the depth. Raise the depth. Yeah, I was getting really technical with this design. I'm realizing that because it's kind of post-apocalyptic, it's going to be rooted in technical stuff, but the detailing is not going to be, which I was not expecting. Oh, that's right, because the welds aren't held down. Or not welds, the rivets. In that case, I can just use the move brush to kind of adjust that. Okay. Wonder if I duplicate this and throw it on that front fender, if I can kind of get an interesting effect there. I see that the chat's kind of just handling itself right now, which I love. Some really good tips about mini painting and color schemes going on. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I'm finally kind of like loosening up into this design again and getting some really cool shapes. Sometimes it's hard to strike a balance between doing stuff with intention and being focused versus like just playing with your design. So if you feel like you're working too slow or just being too picky with yourself, just do something. Just put something down and it'll probably loosen you up. You'll actually make some meaningful progress again. Easier said than done. It's just kind of like a trick for getting out of your own head. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just get something down. You can't have an opinion on something that's not even, doesn't even exist, you know? All right, so now I'm gonna duplicate this fender up here. I'm gonna grab just one section and see if I can mirror and weld it to kind of refine that shape that I have on the front. I'm talking about this piece right here, because they're actually pretty similar. I'm gonna hide these armor plates initially. If it doesn't work out, that's totally fine. I can just detail this the same way, but I'm pretty sure I can just use this and mirror and weld it because they're pretty, I constructed them in a very similar way. When I was blocking this out, I did it complete with the Z Modeler brush, so I learned a lot of new techniques. And as a result, it was kind of hard for me to go back to my normal way of sculpting because I was so focused on new. And it's just like, you can go back to the stuff you were doing before. Those techniques still worked. Yep, that totally works. Sick. It's happening. I think I like this being flat on the front. I might adjust it later, but for now, I'm trying to keep stuff consistent. Very cool. Although it says, Mia, this model and the Thor model are really detailed, have a lot of depth behind each section, a real step up in modeling skill. I think so, yeah. I just like, it's mentally slowing me down because I'm considering so much for each section. So I'm trying to like loosen up a little bit, but you're totally right. I am getting a better result, which feels good. It's just wearing me out. Plus, you're streaming with a bunch of peasants shouting ideas at you. It's true. I do love my peasants, though. Adamas, I'll have you know I don't shout, I scream. That's what I'm gonna hear now in my head when I read anything that you say, Adamas. You guys crack me up. Even if you guys are a menace sometimes. It's all in good fun. What we're really missing is Mini Blaze being here telling me what to do. I'm excited to start adding like pipes. Like I think it was Hindsight that mentioned earlier, like what is this front fender even connected to? Currently nothing. So let's go ahead and start attaching stuff. There's a couple different ways I can do that. I don't really play with these hard surface brushes as much. They're really fun though. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I know there's a angled pipe in one of them. I could also just make it. There's a lot of cool stuff on this one. I don't know what I'd use this turbine for, but it sure looks cool. Ooh, IMM Boolean has a lot on it too. Now I'm kind of just playing around looking at these brushes that I normally don't need to. Yeah, stuff like this, we can really quickly add a lot of interesting detail here. I think having some heat sinks behind right here would actually be kind of cool. I'm gonna throw these on there. There we are. And then grab my Move Topological brush to kind of pull some of these shapes out. Yeah, it's kind of a fun bit of detail. What else is in there? I was supposed to be adding pipes. Completely forgot what I was supposed to be doing. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I think I can accomplish that with curved tube. Making that much smaller draw size. And I'm also gonna make sure that I have once Z turned on, that way it's not contouring to the shape, because we don't want that. Also going to Z remesh with half turned on, get these as smooth as possible. I'm gonna have to turn off symmetry if it keeps, the gizmo keeps doing that. The gizmo's been kind of annoying and like grabbing onto the side that's farthest from me. So we're gonna work with symmetry turned off for a bit, and then I can just turn it back on when needed. All right, let's get an angle on this. And I'll need to have another hubcap that's farther out to connect to. There we go, just some simple shapes. Okay, we're gonna be full silly. That's fine. Whoop. Yeah, this is kind of like what my reference has too. It's neat. There's like two structures right here, and then they kind of interlace on each other. All right. The 3D gizmo is gonna lose its symmetry privileges because it keeps moving to the side that's farthest from me. Driving me crazy. So we'll just work without symmetry turned on, and then we'll mirror and weld later. Ooh, put some spring coils on it. Yeah. Non-sleeper says exhaust is missing. You're the second person to say that. They're right here. I think it's funny you guys have both said that. I haven't been to like the butt of it very often. I think it needs more trim or details like door handles or platforms. Yeah, I agree, because it doesn't look very usable right now. I agree. Oh, Mikey's here. Hey, welcome, welcome. Yeah, maybe some years. I agree. All right, this can have symmetry turned on. Move that fender over. One thing at a time. A lot of really good ideas coming in though. Thank you, Non-Sleeper. I appreciate the donation. Oh, so that's your 10th donation too. Thank you, thank you. You get a heart, and we all get some confetti. Yeah, working on the hard surface stuff is fun, and it's not something that I do very often. I wasn't gonna do it on stream because I was kind of just like a bit more shy of doing this kind of work on stream because I'm not as comfortable with it. But I think I'm at a point where I don't mind doing this on stream. I'm able to override too many suggestions with my own voice, and that's the only thing that I was concerned about. Because I have no problem doing that with like characters and creatures. I've been doing that for so long. But with this, I need to make sure I don't get too lost in all the suggestions. And it's been working out great. Yeah, very cool. Thank you again, Non-Sleeper, for the donation. All right, spring coils was a really cool suggestion. Where would I put those? Suspension by the wheels? Yeah. Gotta say it out loud. All makes sense to me. Some of these brushes, like the Army one, they're so small. There's cool stuff in here, but I think a lot of these brushes could be combined. Maybe that's something that I'll do in my own time. The machine one is cool though. I know there is a spring in here somewhere because I've seen it before and I've used it before. It's probably in the model kit. Oh yeah. Oh, here's those pipes I was looking for earlier. Oh, and the handles. Yeah, because there's no door as of right now. I'm like, wait a minute, how do you get into this? I can bring these forward a bit. Maybe I can just like duplicate this, rotate it. You guys can tell I'm starting to get more comfortable because I'm starting to like play with the shapes more and a lot more quickly, so you're actually seeing some stuff happen. I think it'd be cool if we had some steam vents that were shooting straight up too. I think Clute suggested that earlier, actually. This poor shape is so cooked, the way some of this geometry is cutting through itself. I keep saying I'm gonna fix it, and then I don't, and then I keep reusing this part. Future Mia is gonna be upset about that. But current Mia is not worried about it. So we're gonna keep going. If I had like some more exhaust ports that were on top, it'd be kind of cool. Yeah, once you get comfortable enough with 3D modeling to where you're not just like fighting your tools and trying to figure out how like the basics are, it is really cool because you can just, it really feels like kind of playing in sand where you're like, what can I do with this? What kind of shapes can I make with this? It's all left up to you. It is coming together though. It really is. This shape right here doesn't say a whole lot. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this one. It also doesn't know what it wants to be. So we'll just zero mesh it and see what I think. It's a bit too high poly. It's a little too high poly to do a lot with the Z modeler brush. That's why I'm reducing it. Probably best to work on this when it's single plane, but right now we're kind of just playing with shapes. Adama says, the idea is like fish in the river. Just catch the ones that you like and measure up in your basket. Exactly. Just grab them all and then see like, is this a release or is this a keep? I like it. Wolf says, a pipe or bar that's connecting the front wheel armor to the main for integrity. Ah, I like that idea. More is more. All right, this is not working. We are going to initialize you into a cube. So that way you are Z modelerable, because right now you are not. And when I tried to move you, you extruded a ridiculous poly loop all the way across yourself. So, bam, you have been initialized. Now it's actually a usable thing. We're gonna put a 45-degree rotation on this, just because it looks cooler, and extend that farther back. We still don't have a door. How necessary is a door? What if you just like, you jump in through this giant air intake? That's your door. You guys are so picky, wanting this to be functional and reasonable. Nah, it's true. The designs that look interactable are always the ones that look the best too. There's something innate about it. Like, It's hard to explain. You know if something is possible just by looking at it. Ooh, the front fender idea that Hindsight just sketched is really killer and cool. It's pretty much an orc head. It is. Okay, I might not do the face, but I'm gonna play with the horns right now. That's really, really cool. If you guys want to see this awesome thing that Hindsight sketched, it's in our Discord. There's an invite at the very top of the chat. It says join here to see our behind the scenes. There's your invite, and then you can go into the live stream reference and see what some of our peasants have got cooking. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and draw on these horn shapes. I can use the curve tube brush for that. Stroke, flip that over on itself, just like that. I'm not gonna have symmetry turned on because symmetry has been banned. Symmetry has been a pain in the butt today. This might make it a little too fantasy for what the guy was asking, but it's for that campaign to Avernus. So I mean, adding like horns, it's very demonic, very on theme. I may or may not want the lower tusks. I might just replace all this with spikes even, but the curly Q-ness of it, kind of cool. It's one of those ideas I can really quickly replicate throughout the entire model and then decide like, oh, do I want to expand that idea or not? You don't know until you do it though. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then Adama says you can put a small hatch on top. Ooh, that would prevent my problem with the door. I like that. That is easier than what I was going to do, which was nothing. Just kidding. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I had this hard surface piece. It's like a template. I guess I don't have it anymore. Sad. Oh, there it is. Very good. Also, though, I keep getting distracted. Now I want to add more of these spikes. Really quick, we're going to throw a bunch of spikes on here and see if we like it. I imagine we will. These need to be angled a certain way, though. All right, just want to throw on some spikes. And then that door I was gonna make, hatch on top, makes a ton of sense, and we have just a spot for it, which is behind the harpoon, which has not seen enough love yet. We will definitely need to work on the harpoon. Instead of spikes, jagged bits of metal. Yeah, I like that. I can take these spikes and can like rip them down the center and then make them a little more uneven, kind of more like pounded out metal. That'd be cool. Mikey says the live stream reference channel that's a great ad on Discord. Yeah, thank you so much. I kind of like mumbled that, so I'm gonna repeat it because it's really cool. And I'm glad that you like it. In our Discord community, we now have a channel that's called live stream reference. You guys can like sketch things out, put references in, or just generally comment on what's going on. It's kind of like a secret chat. If you want to be part of that Discord, reminder, the invite is pinned at the very top of this chat on YouTube. Alrighty. I'm gonna add some thickness to this. Really simple. Got our shape here. Let's go ahead and lower that. And then let's make it a more interesting shape by adding a taper. There we are. And then we'll add an edge loop to it, and then probably some bolts that kind of hold it in place. I'm getting better at this. I don't know why it says extrude poly loop. There we go. I was being really silly. It's like extruding the entire face, and I'm like, the entire face is not a poly loop. So if it's going to be a hatch, it would make sense if we had like a hinge, right? I imagine it would open like this, but I guess it could also just as easily open like this. I guess it doesn't super matter. It just depends what side I put the hinge on. Either way, I'm a huge fan of layers, so we're gonna just duplicate this and put another one on top of it. And then where is, I know there's a hinge in here already, but it might be better if I just make it. There's the handle I wanted to use. There we go. It's kind of cool. And that starts to give a sense of scale too. Here's a bunch of different hinges. Or just kind of like panels. Wow, there's a lot. This is the mother lode hard surface brush. This is really cool. So I was complaining about the other one. It had like 2 things in it, and I'm like, this isn't very helpful. This is cool. Yeah, hinge on the back. Yep. I'm on it. Oh, that's kind of cool too. There's that spring we were looking for earlier. I found it. Aloha says, I've been popping in and out every 30 minutes or so. The model's looking awesome. Great job. Thank you, thank you. Hindsight says, I appreciate that you enjoy my input / suggestions / designs, but recognize them as such and not afraid to disregard them. Yeah, of course. I feel like we have a really cool like art friendship going on. It's cool. Foxy talking to Aloha. I was promised nets and stuff. Yeah, usually Aloha is really aggressive and bringing people into really just a community in general. All right. I'm especially open to hearing any of your input, non-sleeper, because you'd have a gift when it comes to hard surface. So non-sleeper is one of my students, and I've been teaching them for a while. They've come in and out, but they're back making a lot of stuff. But it's amazing, like the skill level they have at hard surface versus the amount of time they put into it is very disproportionate in a good way. It's been pretty cool. There's a latch. We'll do 2. Or we can just do like 1 long skinny. Have it flipped the wrong way. There we go. I think this panel here is a little too big. And it needs to be lowered. Yeah. I don't like that it's cutting over these curved fenders here, but we also haven't done much with this piece. So before I make the hatch here contour to the fender, let's develop that a little bit more. This is a really odd shape I have going on. All right, I've extruded the thickness, so it's now a real thing. Now we can kind of cut in some edge loops and work with it. There we go. There we go. That's what I had in mind, and it happened to work out much smoother than I expected. Needs some blending. But overall, a cool thing. And I was wondering if I can add another edge loop here. All right, don't want to get too crazy with adding all these secondary forms. That's another thing, like once you get better with adding, like making your tools work for you, sometimes it's hard to scale back and not do too much. Then you end up just muddying your own design. Holy shit, this is looking really cool. It's happening. Excellent. Oh, Lucky's here. Hi, welcome. Hindsight, artistic rapport. I agree. This is our second stream now where we have 20 people here. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're really having a good time, I encourage you to subscribe, and then YouTube will tell you when I stream, which is darn near every day. Non-Sleeper says, if this is orky, then add random metal patches to the surface. I agree, and that will add some nice asymmetrical detail. It's more Mad Maxy than orcish, but let's be real, there's quite a lot of overlap between the two. And as I mentioned earlier, any suggestions that you have, Non-Sleeper, I am inclined to take them. You're like my hard surface prodigy student. All right, I like what this is trying to do, but it just needs a little bit of nudging and a little bit of help. It kind of reminds me of like a battering ram, which is just cool, but we are kind of losing a little bit of our silhouette and our structure here. So let's see if I can clean this up. If I can't, that's okay. I'll just construct it a little more intelligently. It's supposed to be just like a giant air intake, but now I'm starting to imagine it like a weapon. So I may pivot that idea accordingly. I'm gonna stretch these other air intakes forward just a touch, and then duplicate and throw them on top. For all my students that are in the chat and just watching the stream, notice things that I say like, oh look, do you see how this has terrible topology? I'll fix that later. And then I proceed to use this to draft out more concepts. Don't be like me. Fix your topology before you duplicate it everywhere, because now I'm gonna have to do this like 10 times. It's always worth putting in the effort up front and not later. But I can't stop myself from being a menace. Oh well. That's a future Mia's problem, as I like to put it. You guys probably won't have to see future Mia on stream, where I'm sure there'll be a lot of swearing. Oh man, this is cool. Heck yeah. Only one thing has like fine details on it, but you can kind of see how it's gonna continue to build, which is cool. And then Alois put in a really sweet little ad for my own business. Thank you, Alo, for reminding me. Yeah, so these are all Patreon requests. That's what this all comes from. I do 3D printable models for about 6 years. This is my Patreon. I'm lucky enough to have like over 400 people support me here, and they put in requests, and it's just a great time. I accept all requests. As long as it's fantasy or grim dark or something along that vein, I accept it. I do a release every single Monday, and I 3D print all my stuff. So every model you see also has a 3D printed picture, and that's mini size. So that is this big. I had the minis in front of me until I redid my desk. But yeah, if you're interested in that, there's a link for that. You can just join for free too, so I encourage you to. If you just want to talk and hang out with the community, join the Discord. That's linked up at the very top of the chat pinned there. So yeah. ad read. Hindsight says, you were wary of this, but it's clear that you're enjoying this more than Thor. Yeah, I agree. Dude, Thor yesterday was kicking my ass. I was really wanting to get that essence of cool, and it wasn't coming across. So I put in a bit more time outside of the stream, and Thor did finally come together. I'm going to put him on stream really quick, because now I'm proud of it. It's not that different, but there's now that essence there I was trying to get earlier. I don't know why the screen is so small. Oh, ZBrush. 1 second. Resize. Would you have to resize this document? Yes, I would. Control. Bam. But yeah, I did a little bit more work on Thor off stream, and it really started to come together, and I'm really happy with that. It might look pretty similar, but I swear this now has that cool factor I was looking for, an interesting silhouette that wasn't coming to me on stream. It's a tricky character to get correct, because he's really cool. I mean, he's a god. Like, he needs to look godlike. So yeah. For those that are new to the stream, these are the kind of characters I normally work on, because again, I do a lot of tabletop minis and the like. But every now and then I get requests for... So yeah, this was a Patreon request, and so was this Warmachine. So it kind of gives you an idea of the spread that we do here on the channel. It's just a really good time. I wasn't always request focused. I used to just do my own collections and share and sell those. But now that I have, hundreds of people that support me every month, I can just focus on that full time and not worry about having to, pay the bills. Like, I'm totally covered. So I figured it'd be a kind of a win-win to share that back to my community of, okay, tell me what you guys want specifically. Because I don't have to worry about making a sale since the sales have already been made. That's kind of the beauty of Patreon, because I have that steady support month over month. So I feel very lucky to do what I do. It's pretty awesome. That being said, I still do have like side projects where I kind of curate my own collections. But now there's not any pressure of like, oh, is this going to sell well enough to, support, this is my full-time job, right? It's a nice place to be. It really is. I don't know if I talk about that a ton on stream, but I feel very lucky. I know I work hard, but working hard isn't enough necessarily when you're doing art as a full-time job. Very happy it's paid off. All right, kind of taking a look at this. Gonna continue some of these details I have going. I like these pipes. Want to add some more secondary details like this. And I'm especially happy to go nuts with this model because it doesn't need to be posed because it is a machine. So I can add as much detail as I want. Because the second that I'm done detailing it, the model's just finished. It's kind of exciting. I think it'd be cool if I had one of these pipes, kind of like an L shape on the back. Let's see if I can accomplish that. Yeah, there we are. Very cool. Might decide I like this, might not. We'll see. Won't know until I see it. Yeah, it's cool. It's a little rough in shape and concept, but I think that's something I'm gonna refine later and like a lot. I kind of do the same treatment for these wheels right here. Except these ones probably won't have that L shape, and I might simplify them a bit further. All right, what are you doing? There we go. delete hidden, mirror and weld. Beautiful. Cool. Pretty cool. Soapfire's here. Hey, welcome back. Thor reminds me of Thornfinn from Ghost USA. Not sure of the reference, but I'm glad he reminds you of something. Aloha, is there anything different you have to consider for big hard surface prints compared to normal prints we do? You know, not really. I avoid like little thin elements, make sure those details are punched in. Since this is going to be such a big print, I can really get away with more, which is great. I agree. Aloha says, also thank God Mini Blaze isn't here today. I fear the blockout phase would have put them in the hospital. Yeah, I already had plans to put them on timeout if they came to today's stream. I told my husband that before we started. Oh God. If Mini Blaze watches this later, we all love you. You just don't handle the design phase well. It gives you a bit of a heart attack. Foxy says, you say that, but can you pose it doing a wheelie? I mean, I could. That is not a bad suggestion. All right, I think I'm mostly caught up here. Yeah. What do you guys say I try to paint this for like the 10th time? I'm gonna get better. Non-sleeper says, it looks very new and shiny. If you want it dark, then bang it up a little bit. Yeah, I agree. Like this is all super flush. This isn't. This is the only thing that's gotten some of that texture and it does look the best. I agree with you. Before I do that poly paint, let's go ahead and add another couple layers of detail here. Non-sleeper, it's like the student has become the master. I love to see it, I really do. Aloha, Mini Blaze versus Blockout Phase is one of the greatest battles of the modern era. Yeah, I've thought about trying to explain it to her why like her suggestions visibly annoy me, but everyone else's doesn't. I'm like, you know what? I think if I have to explain it, they're not gonna get it. Foxy, haver of not bad suggestions. Very true. You have been very well behaved. All right, we've gotten that thinned out a bit. I like it. And then let's go ahead and insert some poly loops and get more of this pipe look. I know these are kind of excessively thick. I'm gonna just say it's because it's 3D printed, but the reality is that's kind of how they turned out. Just being totally honest with you guys. But I can make them thinner than this. It's a bit extreme. Also, they're not connecting to the wheel on the right spot. They're going through the tire. Don't worry about it. We're gonna fix it. See, that's the exact kind of thing that Mini Blaze would have a meltdown over. My favorite was yesterday, complaining about the mohawk on Thor, because I was like, it's literally just a blob on his head. I'm not gonna leave it like that. All right, there's a centerpiece here that we don't want, so I'm gonna go ahead and hide that. We're gonna thin these up, move them to the side, and connect them on a spot that actually makes sense. Wow. You know, I'm starting to get tired. It might evolve into like memes. Don't worry about it. These spikes would rip through these axles though. I want you to make sense, but not too much sense. Cannot have the spikes longer than this point. Get in there. All right, that's a bit better. And then this one is still broken. That's a bit better. All right, that's tolerable. It's not just like cutting straight through the rubber tire now. What was I doing? Right, I was detailing and adding more hard surface roughness. Hindsight, just take the little spikes off. That's true. That would have also fixed that problem. Oh, anything else is here. That's your request of this model. Hi. Hello. Yeah, I felt so bad the other day on stream when you popped in and I wasn't working on your model because like you paid for the ticket. It's because this is such a different model for me in hard surface that I have been not doing it on stream. I've worked on it a little bit every single day. And now I'm finally feeling brave enough, like, you know what? I'm getting better at these techniques. I can put it on stream. But I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you so much for, supporting my art and requesting this thing, because it is badass. If you have any concerns, just know it's not done. Don't worry. It's cooking. It's going to be awesome. And then Voxel's here. Hello, welcome. Oh yeah, you said anything else even said, this looks awesome so far. I'm so glad that you already see how cool it's going to be. Makes me really happy. And thanks for trusting me with this, because this really isn't what I normally do, but I want to get better at it. So yeah. All right. What are we getting? Hindsight says, keep the center one, take the radial ones off. Bada bing. Yep, yeah, that would work. That would work. So keep these ones on, and then remove these ones. Yes, for the front wheel especially, I think that's going to look better. Radial gone, delete, mirror, mirror, bam. Bada bing. And then I can make these ones ridiculously long, which is like my favorite. Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's maybe a little too big, but it's kind of cool, so I might leave it for a little bit. We'll see how I feel about it. These spikes need some help too. They're not my favorite right now. I like the suggestion we had earlier to be like broken bits of metal. We'll probably do that later. All right. Non-sleeper, don't think out supports on the front tire too much. I think that got autocorrect a little bit. I'm not totally sure what you're saying. Foxy says, Orc Logic suggests you cut a spike hole in the axle. This is true. That would be Orc Logic. I like it, I like it. All right, I wanna rough up this shape a bit more. Ooh, not so small. Come back to me, ZBrush, it's running away. I want this to have more of just a different shape. This just isn't the shape I want it to be. That's a bit better. Yeah, I don't mind the center here where you just literally have untouched cubes. A lot of this still needs love and attention. It's happening. It's coming together. I'm really excited for this harpoon to take more shape, because as of now, it's just a bunch of cylinders. And then I really want this spike here to look closer to the reference, where it has a bunch of pieces kind of hooked off the back of it too. Yeah, it's really cool. This is gonna be awesome when it's finished. I know there's a lot of people on my Patreon that don't support me for these kind of models because I never make them, so it's gonna be like a nice, it's gonna be a nice surprise. And yeah, Non-Sleeper made a suggestion about something engineering related. In hindsight, I mentioned, yeah, I am an engineer. If you guys are new, fun fact, yeah, I have my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. As you can tell, doesn't mean I can design a car from scratch. Not quite that engineer, but I can solve problems. We're really good at solving problems. Also, my schooling was more than 5 years ago now, so don't expect me to be able to like spit information at you guys. Hindsight says, personally, I'd rather those rear exhausts be round. It'd fit better with the techno-organic aesthetic you have going so far. Yeah, let's just see how that looks. I kind of like the sharpness we have going on here, but it might complement the tubes we have. Pipes, there we go. I'm like, not tubes, pipes. There we go. Shoop. All right, and then we're gonna want to indent this point here. Shoop. Extrude polygroup island. There we go. Bring that pretty far back, and then I'm gonna add another extrude poly loop on the edge before I extrude this a bunch of times, so that way it looks intentional and cool. I might even have a couple of those. I just think they're neat. Not anything functional, just for cool factor. And a little asymmetrical because that's been fun. All right. We're gonna flip this over on this back. Hide these exhaust ports. And this kind of reminds me more of like that pipe organ effect, which is just really cool. I might have these vents replace a few of the other ones as well. All right, exhaust has been updated. I do think it fits the design better and it reads a little more clearly. And doesn't have busted topology like that other one that I had. You can't tell that there's problems with it, but there are problems with it, and I would have to redo that before long. All right, we're gonna Dynamesh this with polish turned on so I can start to rough up this texture here too. I've been using a combination of orb slash, flatten, and even clay tubes constant, surprisingly. And this is per the request of non-sleeper that mentioned like it's looking a little too pretty, which I agree with. So we're gonna add in a little bit of wear and tear here. And I can even add in some fine wear and tear with my damn standard brush. I don't need to go too crazy with that though. And then some rivets. Oh, there's that spring that I wanted too. Where can I put this spring? Because I know it's just cool and I want to have it somewhere. Man, hard surface is really fun, guys. That's why I was excited about this request. I knew I wanted to accept it. I never have many excuses to work on stuff like this. I don't even know where this would go. I know it's like suspension related, but I don't imagine this would have the best suspension. I imagine it'd be kind of like underneath these pipes here, but then you can't really even see it. Maybe if I just hide that one to expose the spring. That's kind of cool. Just playing with ideas. What if these had more of a angled shape too? And I have a little bit more room to show off that spring there. Just have to be careful this doesn't get too wobbly looking. Taylor says, I'd like to see your take on more hard surface items, like a cannon or a sling or catapult. Ooh, a traveling circus wagon. All would be very, very cool. All stuff that I'd like to do too. I do have a hand puppet cart in my request board, but that one's pretty far down the line, so it's gonna be a few months before that makes its way onto my live stream. Yeah, I like the straight pipes better. Maybe I'll just come back to this idea. Oh yeah, in hindsight, put a reference of what they were talking about. Oh yeah, like a motorcycle, duh. So that would actually be the equivalent on this machine is here. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That was close. Not really. Thank you. Sick. That makes me happy. And then coming back in here with this clay tubes. And yeah, I've been kind of like roughing it up with this material, and I'm surprised at how well that's working. And it's really quick too. Cool. Hindsight. Yeah, I'm like one step ahead of you, it looks like. We're just on the same page. I like it. I mean, it feels good, honestly, right? I look up at the chat and I see that you've made a suggestion, and by the time that I've looked up, I've already done the suggestion. I mean, maybe I'm just cheating. I'm looking up, like, really secretly, but not acknowledging it, and then passing it off like it's my own idea. Man, this is looking so badass. Cool, cool. I'm hoping that this will inspire more people on my Patreon to make requests like this, because I don't really advertise that I do models like this, but it is something I want to continue to get better at. You know, like in 5 years, I want to be that person that can model like all kinds of different styles, and the only way I can do that is by doing, you know? So yeah. Anything else says, yeah, between demon and devils. Yes, this is gonna be very, very cool. It's getting there. Taylor says, yeah, the details are coming along. Yeah, I'm super happy with it. And so far, I don't really have any 3D printing concerns with this either. This is gonna print like a solid, awesome unit. I'm probably gonna do some padding or stuffing is what I call it, to make sure that these things are solid underneath. So what that looks like is I will be taking stuff like a IMM primitive. I'll like throw a capsule on here. It won't affect the actual visual of the model. It'll just make it so there aren't any integrity issues when it's being printed. So you can see right here I have this capsule piece, and you can tell that the fairing obviously doesn't touch the tire, because if this fairing touched the tire, it would just scream as it rolled, right? But this isn't actually going to roll, and we need it 3D printable. So I do need this secretly to touch. So what I'll do is I'll actually make this solid all the way back. And then that way, everybody wins, it's totally 3D printable, and you can't even see it. So like that little blob right here will snuck up. There you go. So I'll need to do that before it's completely ready and released. But it's gonna print as one pretty solid, cool unit. I'm excited about it. Sick. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. This has been a really good stream. I needed this. Kind of a big confidence booster, and you guys are watching me learn a new skill on stream. I mean, I can't say it's a brand new skill, because if it was brand new, I wouldn't have accepted the request. I wouldn't have told anything else to request this in the first place. It's not one that I've practiced as much, so I just knew it was gonna take me longer to get a result I was proud of. But it's something that I was willing to do, and this is so cool. So, so cool. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap up this stream here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you're new or just not sure what's going on here, hello, my name is Mia. I model 3D printable figures for like miniatures, terrain, that kind of stuff for tabletop games. I've been doing this for about 6 years. If you want to make a request, join Patreon for that. It's $15 a month, and you can make a request every single month. But if you just want to hang out and be part of the community, join the Discord. We are a friendly lot over there, and the peasants would love to see you. Discord invite is just hanging out at the top of the YouTube chat. I'll throw another invite in there before I close off. Right now I'm kind of just doing a turnaround here so we can kind of admire this from all the different angles, because it is looking mean machine. This is really cool. Sick. Taylor says, what about a roundest windshield? Oh, that could be cool. Yeah, like the land speeders. I'll think about it. Foxy says, have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much. I think most of the stream has been regulars, but if you are a lurker and being shy, don't. Join us. Discord invite. We're super friendly. If you're interested in 3D modeling or 3D printer, or 3D printer, 3D printing, that's the place to be. This has been sick though. I'm having a great time. I think that's pretty much it. That's like the wrap. That's like my whole spiel. It's like, yep, I 3D model 3D printables for a living. If you want to request them, go to Patreon. If you want my entire library, it's $7 a month. That's it. And there's almost 1,000 models in there, so it's a pretty screaming deal if I do say so myself. Hindsight says looks sick as fuck. Metal as fuck? Yeah, both work. Both work. It's been a really good time though. I really love what I do, and I plan to be streaming and doing this for a very, very long time. It's been about a month and a half so of me being very consistent with live streaming pretty much every day. I generally start around noon Eastern time. Sometimes as early as 11, as late as 1, but anytime in that time frame. So yeah. If you guys have any last minute questions, now it's time to ask. If not, I'm probably gonna wrap up and sign off. Wolf says, looks great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. I definitely kind of needed a little cheerleading party because this is a tricky one. Again, outside my wheelhouse, but maybe not for long, you know? I think I'm picking this up pretty quickly. It just requires so much more brain energy than like the practice routes I have designing a character or a creature. Obviously there are overlaps, but it is a totally different ballgame with structuring stuff for hard surface, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat, so you guys either know who I am or don't have any questions, or you're too shy to ask. If so, boo. I'll be back tomorrow. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and that's a wrap. See ya.